All right. Hey guys, I'm back. It's Sunday, which means another installment of A Weapon of Magical Destruction, book one in the Agents of A.S.S.E.T series. And just like last week, this one, chapter 5, is another one of my favorites. It's a fun little chapter because we're discovering, along with Sage, that the world is not quite what it seems. And I think the discovery part of it is always fun because when you look at something and you expect something and you get something else, it really throws your mind for a loop. So, everybody grab your books if you're reading along with me. And I am still using my wonderful bookmark that my son made for me because he's awesome. But we're going to do something a little special this week because in my search for bookmarks, because we all know how important bookmarks are, I found my metal bookmarks that I usually bring these with me to Comic-Cons because they are really, really awesome giveaway type items or free gift with purchase type items. They are so freaking cool. These are my absolute favorites. So I found a set or two of these wonderful bookmarks, and I'm going to tell you a little contest we're going to run later on in the broadcast regarding these. So where did we leave off? Chapter 5. So last week, I was also told by one of my watchers that chapter 4 was too short. I didn't read for very long, and they were disappointed. So what we're going to do is we're going to read chapter 5. And if after reading chapter 5, you still want to hang out and listen to chapter 6 or read along with me on chapter 6, let me know once we get to that point. And if enough people want to, then we will go ahead and continue on to chapter 6. If not, we'll just end it there and come back next week for another story time. So let me say hi to all of my friends who are watching today. It's so wonderful to see all of your support. Hey, Joe. Hey, Regine. Hey, Rebecca. And, we're all the way in the UK again. Hi, Donna. How you doing? So thank you again. This actually, it's fun for me to read, but it's so much more fun for me to know that there are other people out there who are listening and enjoying the story right along with me. So thank you guys. This is very, very important. But you came here to listen to a story, so I'm going to get to it. Remember, I can't read the comments while I'm reading the book, so I will address those after the chapter's done. And don't make a drinking game out of all of my author fails because you'll be drunk before the chapter's over. So expect me to trip over my own tongue. That's just what happens. All right, let's do this. Excuse me. Chapter 5. The alarm clock blared with ear-piercing intensity. Sage whimpered at the clock, pleading for it to stop without having to get up and hit the button. The damn thing never listened. Instead, it kept screaming at her from across the room. The true master of the morning. On a whispered curse, Sage lifted herself from the bed and herself look human for the workday ahead. Life, under normal circumstances, was mind-numbingly routine of business casual dress, coffee on the run, and microwave lunch at her cubicle workstation. Monotony at its finest. But she couldn't complain. Fresh out of college and working at an entry-level position in a large accounting firm was more than many people her age had, and she counted herself lucky for it. Sage lumbered into the office and tossed her gym bag under her desk. It wasn't even 9 in the morning, and her inbox looked like Mount St. Helens threatening to erupt at any moment. That was her punishment for daring to take 2 days bereavement leave. Cost to completes needed to be entered, piles of charge-offs and expense forms needed to be sorted by job, and if she managed to finish those tasks, there was always the endless stack of filing. She mentally prepared for a thrilling day of carpal tunnel and paper cuts as she booted up her computer. Back so soon? Genevieve called out from behind the cubicle wall. Her quad desk neighbor was an accounting lifer, 30-something with kids and an addiction to caffeine. She had already been working for the company for 8 years when Sage was hired on. She was the office gossip guru. It's not like I can afford to be off for long. I still have bills to pay, right? Sage peeked over the top of her cubicle to speak to her. Her mask must have fallen. Sage thought she had hidden... There's one. Sage thought she had hidden her despair Wow, I cannot read today. Let's try that again from the top. Her mask must have fallen. Sage thought she had hidden her despair enough to manage the workday, but the pity reflecting in Genevieve's hazel eyes said otherwise. You doing okay, honey? She had the mom voice down pat, and just that simple phrase brought Sage back to tears. She ducked down below the walls of her cubicle, hoping to shield herself from embarrassment. But there, too, she found reminders of just how gaping the hole in her heart was. A card had been wedged between her keyboard and monitor, signed by the whole office. A touching note of solidarity. The waterworks were coming. She couldn't break down. No, not here, not now. I'm fine, I'm fine. She sniffed back her emotions, hoping to dam them up inside. I just need to bury myself in work. If you need anything, sweetie, just let me know. I've got your back. I will. Sage packed the card away in her bag to avoid being sent into another fit of tears. She had to be strong. Her inbox was calling, and there was more than enough work there to keep her busy for the rest of the year. After a few deep breaths, she was able to put the mask back on. Oh, and plan for margaritas on Friday. We're putting together a happy hour at the Iguana. Genevieve chirped happily between shuffles of papers. Don't tell the rest of the girls, but your first drink's on me, okay? Pain relief with a salted rim. Who could say no to that? Even if it did mean socializing with the entire accounting team. Harkening back to the school lunchroom, social hierarchy in the office was well defined. Dealing with each person one-on-one was easy enough when you had deadlines and assigned tasks to complete. But beyond the confines of their cubicle and job titles, navigating the various personalities required skill and finesse that Sage had yet to master. Like on a reality TV show, befriending and allying yourself with the right people could save your job. Before she could answer, Genevieve warned, "Heads up, Marcy's on the warpath." Someone someone in the uniform accounts misplaced a decimal point on a CTC change request, and she fired them on the spot. Seriously? Sage popped her head over the wall again, shocked to hear Genevieve's report. Oh yeah, word is Marcy's getting a divorce, so stay off her radar until things cool down. But you didn't hear that from me. My lips are sealed. She pantomimed, zipping her mouth shut, and retook her seat. Hours dragged on as Sage meticulously went line by line, entering job cost information into the spreadsheet. The numbers began to look the same after a while, and the gentle the gentle clack of the keys as she typed became hypnotic in their cadence. She'd fall under their spell if she didn't do something quick. Coffee was the only solution, but as she stood to grab a cup, she bumped into the infamous Marcy. Sage shrieked, her heart nearly stopped. Marcy had the reputation for being the troll of the accounting office. Ruthless as she was evil, the department head known for cutting costs as well as employees with brutal efficiency. That alone was enough to make Sage fear stepping on her toes. But, on first glance, the normally poshly dressed head of the accounts team had suddenly grown a foot taller. Her skin a sickly grayish green that had nothing to do with fluorescent lights above. Follow me, please, Miss Cynwrig. Coal-black eyes stared straight through Sage as teeth like razors snapped together after the shrill order. Staring dumbstruck at her boss, whose face had sprouted moles with thick black hairs jutting out from their tops, Sage couldn't bring herself to do more than slap a hand over her mouth to keep from gaping in surprise. Was this a joke? It had to be. But Marcy wasn't the kind of woman who played around. She was as strict as they came and known for having no personality whatsoever, which had earned her the nickname of Troll. But to see her standing there looking the part, Marcy even had the long-tipped ears to match. She didn't even want to look down at her feet, but searching for somewhere else to look, she did, and nearly shrieked again. They were more claw-like than foot, with red-painted talons for toenails. What the hell is happening to me? It wasn't the first time Sage had seen a transformation like this, and seeing her boss now reminded her of the dream she'd had, the army of trolls fighting in a magical war. Is there a problem? Marcy growled after an uncomfortably long period of silence had earned stares from everyone else in viewing range. Sage blinked and shook her head. By the time she opened her eyes again, her boss reappeared. Curls of fiery red hair circled a heavily made-up and heart-shaped face. Very human face. Dark eyes still glared at her, reminding Sage that she was not in a position to cause problems. Sorry, ma'am. Sage gulped back her initial revulsion. Snap out of it. Her mind had been playing tricks on her lately, stress and grief playing havoc with her sanity. My office. Now, Marcy demanded. The rumor mill girls were standing up at their desk, looking to see what all the commotion was about. If she still had a job after this meeting with Marcy, she might need to check in and see if her insurance benefits included mental health. More and more it seemed a shrink was in order. Sage hung her head and slowly made the walk of shame all the way to Marcy's office. I'm sorry to hear of the passing of your family member. I hope you were able to settle affairs during your bereavement leave. Marcy marched through the office, taking a seat behind her large desk. Sage took a spot opposite the desk, but didn't sit. She bit her tongue to avoid scoffing. She'd had all of 2 days to make it home and back, hardly enough time for true mourning or settling of anything. But already, at strike one, she knew better than to reply with anything less than, "Yes, ma'am." Cunning eyes scanned her from head to toe, looking for another strike to add to the tally. "May I remind you, Miss Cynwrig, we have a standard of appearance here?" Instinctively, Sage pulled back her arm, covering it quickly, but it was too late. Marcy whipped a manicured finger, aiming it straight at her wrist. "Tattoos of any kind may not be visible during work hours." "It's not a tattoo. It's a birthmark." "Not now. Please, not now." Just the thought of having to talk about it made her cringe. Marcy's eyes dilated cruelly, and her lips parted in a smile more frightening than anything Sage had seen before, as if she had gift-wrapped a reason to be fired. Her boss held out her hand and demanded, "Let me see." With a defeated sigh, Sage reluctantly showed off her deformity. Embarrassment of the highest caliber. Working in a right-to-work state gave employees carte blanche when it came to firing people. By rights, she shouldn't have to reveal any part of her body to an employer, but at the risk of losing her job, it was the lesser of two evils. Marcy snatched her arm, pulling Sage off balance as she brought it closer. She cringed and closed her eyes, awaiting for her boss's verdict. But rather than the sting of the guillotine's blade, she felt the hard wood of the desk as her knuckles crashed down. Marcy sucked in a breath, dropping Sage's hand as if it had burned her. Okay. It is a short chapter. When their eyes met across the desk, it was Marcy who looked frightened, but that fleeting emotion quickly disappeared behind her usual mask of self-importance. "I see. Quite an interesting birthmark? Is that what you called it?" Marcy averted her eyes, suddenly taking more interest in the papers on her desk. "Yes, ma'am." Something about her deformity had struck a chord with Marcy. Most people thought it was ugly or a bad ink job, but no one ever responded with fear after seeing it. Still avoiding eye contact, Marcy asked, "Who was it again who passed away?" "My mother," Sage responded as calmly as she could. A moment passed in stunned silence before Marcy finally looked up at Sage. Emotions warred for control over her boss's face. Eyes that had been calculating and cruel moments before suddenly softened. Fine lines appeared at her brow as if she were deep in thought, but she didn't speak her mind. "I'll do my best to keep it covered," Sage offered as a way to break the silence. "I'm truly sorry, dear. I'm sure this loss has affected you in more ways than you can imagine." Yeah, thank you." Her boss's words were too kind. There had to be a trap somewhere in this conversation. "Perhaps you should take a little more time off to grieve," Marcy continued. And there it was. Her job was about to be eliminated. Even the cruelest of trolls couldn't let her go directly after a death in the family. But if she played her cards right, maybe she'd get enough paid time off to find another job. "Okay," Sage hung her head as she turned towards the door. "Have Genevieve take over your duties for the next week." How could Marcy speak so sweetly as if she'd blah blah? What is that, 3 now? Are we keeping count? Let's try that again. "Have Genevieve take over your duties for the next week." How could Marcy speak so sweetly as she stabbed someone in the back? No wonder she was getting a divorce. That woman was pure evil. "Oh, and I'll make sure your paycheck is delivered to your apartment. No need to come down here and pick it up." Am I being let go? Sage decided just to go for blunt. What was the worst that could happen? "When do I come back?" Marcy smiled, but it was far from genuine. "We'll discuss your career later after you've had proper time to grieve and deal with the changes." Cruelty with a dash of crafty on top. What a bitch! There has got to be a special place in hell for trolls like her. Sage took her leave and headed back out to her desk. "You okay?" Genevieve asked, popping her head over the cubicle. "I think I just got fired," Sage replied angrily. "She fired you?" "Well, she told me I could take more time to grieve. Those were her exact words. Sage picked up her bag. Oh, and she'll mail me my check. The reality of being let go from a job that the reality of being let go from her job hadn't quite settled in, but anger was quickly taking hold. Unless she said you're fired, you still have a job, Genevieve offered with a weak smile. Semantics aside, Sage knew her time with the company was over. It might be a week or more before the paperwork was sent to her, but the truth was obvious. Her hands shook with anxiety as the realization hit her. She might have to consider Mark's offer to work at A.S.S.E.T. Her mom might be dead, but she still had a life to live. She couldn't do that without a job. All right, so that is chapter 5. So we'll pause for a second here so I can actually see the comments because I can't see them when I'm reading. But if you do want me to continue on chapter 6 today, put that in the comments so that we can, or so that I can see them, and then I can go ahead and continue with that. But let's take a look at what you guys were saying while I was reading. Shiny. Yes, the bookmarks are super shiny. I don't know if it translates really well. Let me grab one of these. I don't know how well it translates in this light because it's reflecting a lot of my monitor. But let me pull back a little. All right, look at the way the smoke adjusts as it picks up the light. It almost creates a 3D effect. And these things, they're so gorgeous. They're absolutely gorgeous. I love them. And I was so happy to find an artist locally in Vegas who does these kind of transfers to metal and does them for such an awesome price that I can actually use them as part of giveaways and as part of free gift with purchase type things. So I can incentivize buying books when I go to conventions like Combat Con, Phoenix Comic Con, all the ones that I normally go to, which I haven't been able to go to this year. I'm so sad. But chapter 6. I think Joe might want me to read chapter 6. All right, so that's one vote. Carpal tunnel and paper cuts. I like that. Oh, what's the drink count, guys? I know I flubbed a couple of times. Happy hour at the Iguana sounds right. There's actually a lot of the places that I name in my books are places that I went to in my youth. Not that I'm horribly old, but a lot of the places I try and kind of pay homage to them because there were places I loved going myself, and some of them no longer exist at all. So I do mention a lot of things that just is kind of a nostalgia thing. So the Iguana was actually a place that I went to. Thank you, Joe, for that. I finally found my logo file. Everything got shuffled in the move, and a lot of my separate drives that I used to have to attach to my computer for backups were in boxes and stuff. And I recently found a lot of those, and I've been able to start using them again. So yes, I found my logo, and I do love the logo too. That's one of my favorites. So I'll be able to use that more often now. So that's 3 drinks now, Jonesy. Was it really that bad? Oh, no, Joe says it was 5 or 6, but who's counting? That's why I said, do not make this a drinking game because you'll be drunk before the end of the chapter. And especially if we're going into the next chapter, you don't want to be too sloshed. You want to pay attention because these are the important chapters. These are, they're important for understanding the world. I do a lot of world building this. And actually, that was one of the complaints on this series from some of my readers. And it's one of those kind of like a backhanded compliment more than a complaint, where they appreciated the fact that I was building the world, but they wished it happened faster because they wanted to get to the real meat of the story. And so this one, very much like books from older days, does take a little bit more time to get you into the actual story because I need you to understand these elements first. If I was just to throw you into the world without explaining what is happening to her, there would be a lot more confusion. So a few chapters of let's see how the world develops are necessary for this one. But the rest of the books in the series, I've had the opposite complaint. People have said I've jumped too fast in without rehashing a little bit more. So I'm trying to find the balance here because I don't want to info dump, but I also don't want it to drag on too long. But in this book in particular, you do have to understand the world. So it does take a little extra time. But we're getting into the fun chapters where she's really starting to see and understand what's going on around her. What else we got here? I want more, but this is such a great breaking place. Now I'm conflicted. Well, it's up to you guys. I don't have to read more if you don't want it. We're at about 20 minutes right now on this video, which is kind of the average I've been going for. So I will give you a couple more seconds to cast your votes. Are we doing chapter 6 today, or are we going to save it for next week? And if we're not doing chapter 6 today, I will tell you about my contest idea, which was actually inspired by Jonesy over there. 6 is super important. 6 is a good one. I like 6. Actually, 4, 5, and 6 are probably among my favorites. I liked 4 because so loving and caring while being sarcastic and snarky, and it's that beautiful brother-sister type bond that I really wanted to develop and show throughout the entire series. So those two characters, their bond really helps move the story forward through almost every single book in the series. All right, save it for next week. All right, that's fine. We can save it for next week. I'm okay with that. So if we're going to be doing that, then let's talk about the bookmarks. So I have more than one set. And because I can't go out to any of the conventions this year, I haven't been able to bring them with me, and I haven't been able to use them in any capacity. And I don't want them just sitting there gathering dust and waiting for next year. I'd like to actually order some more for next year so that I have new, fresh designs to go along with these original ones. So right now I only have the Little Werewolf series in these really awesome metal bookmarks. So because I suck at creating contests. And last night during our little author hangout session, we were talking about contests and how they can help get more reach to a channel that's trying to reach the audience. And especially while we're home alone, all we have is this reach right now. My only connection with the outside world is by streaming Spilling Ink or by being on Go Indie Now or doing my weekly reading. So I want to reach out to more people. So what I need to figure out is how to do that. And I want to use an incentive, something that I can share with people, something I can give away as a prize in order to do that. So for those of you who are watching, and for anybody who's watching during this week, because I know not everybody can catch the live broadcast, I need contest ideas. How can I give away a set of bookmarks as an incentive for being a follower on the channel? So your mission this week is to give me ideas. How can I best do this? And I want to listen to all the ideas that everyone comes up with. There are no bad ideas. Use the comment section either here on Facebook or on YouTube. I will be checking all of the comments across the board to give me your best ideas. The idea that I pick, and I will announce that idea on next Sunday, the 20th, whoever's idea it is will get a set of bookmarks for being helpful in creating the idea. And then we will run your contest idea and see how well it works. And the winner of that contest will also receive a set of bookmarks. That way I'm able to kind of incentivize both parts of this because, like I said, I suck at coming up with contests. I really do. So I need all the help I can get. So if you are willing to help me come up with some brilliant ideas, I will reward the winner of the contest idea search with, let's see if I can get a really good shot of these. God, I love the way they shine. Look at that. There you go. You can kind of see that almost 3D effect with the way the light picks it up. I just love them. So anyways, post your ideas. And like I said, all week long. So today's the 13th. From the 13th through the 19th, I will take in every idea that's posted in the comments section, either on Facebook or YouTube, and compile those and see which one is the most workable that I can do. And whoever's idea it is, you will get a set of these wonderful, lovely, shiny bookmarks. And then we'll run your contest on the following week. And the winner of that contest will also get a lovely set of beautiful, shiny bookmarks. Does that sound good, guys? All right. So until then, I want to thank you guys again. It really does mean a lot to me to know that people are out there and listening to me read these stories. I love these stories. This is probably one of my top favorite book series. There's another book series that I'm not going to mention right now because I don't want it to get jealous. The books are sitting on the shelf behind me. But I know you're not supposed to pick a favorite, but usually it's the book series I'm working on that becomes my favorite. And right now I am working on book 5 in this series, and I hope to have it out by the end of the year. So fingers crossed that I can actually get through it. I haven't yet disappointed my deadline, so let's not make this the first time. But it is one of my absolute favorites. I really love exploring this world. I love being able to incorporate all the magical creatures, a little bit of the legends that go with them, and really deepen the magical world that's been created in book 1. So it means so much to me that you guys are listening, and I thank you so much. So until next week, you guys have an awesome week. Try not to stress out too much. Do some self-care and enjoy yourself at some point this week. And I will see you back next week with Chapter 6 and the contest results. All right? Bye, guys. Thank you so much.